What is up, everybody? Jester here, and in the last video I showed you a great place for a brand new player to get settled into Conan Exiles and get started along your crafting journey. And I do want to make this really clear. I really enjoy experiencing all that the game has to offer, the crafting tree, the farming, all of those type of things, and that's kind of how I'm approaching this. Are there faster ways to level up? Abso-freaking-lutely. But for me, I want to experience what the game has to offer, and that first base location is a really, really good spot to get going. What if I told you, though, that the second place, what I've dubbed Steelfire Friend Camp, is even better, and there's even more things to do to advance your journey along in this game? We have got so much to talk about today. Let's get right into it. In that first video, I directed you to the grid block J5, where there's tons of tier 1 natural resources, lots of food to be had, hide, lots of iron, good fights that are a little bit tougher even than the fights we're going to be getting into today. So if you can do the fights here at Lookout Point in Tarman's Berth, you're going to have zero problems when we get to our next location. And that location is going to be right on the cusp between G4 and H4, right near to Sinner's Refuge. And believe me when I tell you, there is so much stuff that you can do here. You shouldn't ever get bored or run out of stuff to do as we do it in this rotation. To get started explaining why Steelfire Friend Camp is such a good location, we're going to focus on the Friend Camp portion of that, and we're going to come over here to Sinner's Refuge. This is a cave that, even when you look it up online, a lot of people know about this cave and recommend this cave, but I'm not sure everybody knows the depths and just how good this cave is and the reasons why it's so good. The number of crafting thralls you can pull out of here, you can basically get a tier 4 for every bench in the game, and some of those are going to be what I consider to be the best thralls you can possibly get for those benches. So don't necessarily come over here looking for fighters or archers, because there's way better places, but there's just tons and tons of thrall spawns in this cave. It is the exile capital, if you will. Now, as we're just going to kind of come live into this cave, I don't know what we're going to run into, but let's check and see. We're going to be getting an exile fighter there. We're going to start seeing some specific type of crafters here. Not necessarily the tier 4s, but you can see there's blacksmith, there's an armorer. If you were looking for archers, there's a couple up there, but again, there's better archers to be had in the game. That's an exile archer 1. Again, probably not worth your time to grab, but you know, if you don't have anything else, they're here to do. And another thing I do want to point out is these fights are really easy. If you can get through the fights at Lookout Point in Tarman's Berth, this cave is a cakewalk when it comes down to it. And with those fights I'm going to show you, because you're going to want to clear this out every 15 minutes, another hidden benefit, but that's going to come a little later in the video. Now right up here, you're going to see that you can get smelter and armor spawns. There's always a couple of dancers over in this location. This can be a tier 4 spawn location, same as that can be. When you come over here, usually it's a couple of archers, but sometimes there can be a fighter along with them, and sometimes this can be a tier 4. Again, not the greatest tier 4s when it comes to archers and fighters. I don't want anybody thinking I'm saying that, but the crafters you can pull out of here are just insane. Now, at the end of the cave, you're going to run into one of a couple of different spawns. In this case, we've got a really, really good one. This is a driver taskmaster thrall, tier 4. What this is going to do is two things for you. Number one, it's going to give you more speed for getting other thralls out of the Wheel of Pain. And also at the Torturer's workbench, it's going to let you craft truncheons that have more concussive damage. So you're going to be able to get thralls faster in the fight. It's just such a good thing to get one of these drivers. I think it's absolutely the best of the taskmasters, and you can get that right here. And again, I didn't set any of this up. We are walking into this cave and just seeing what we can find. But it doesn't stop there. There are so many named thralls here. I think we kind of need to go through the list and just let me show you just how good they really are. This is the Sinner's Refuge wiki, and with a couple of small exceptions, I was able to get everything on this list to spawn in this cave. If you look at the wiki, it's just a little bit out of date because it's showing Zath Priest. And I can tell you right now, even though I was able to get a Zath Priest, which is basically the lowest level, it wasn't tier 4, I was able to get Mitra Priests and Mitra tier 4 Priests. So this is going to be a great spot if you've got Mitra as your religion to pick up that tier 4 thrall that's going to let you craft the Mitra token. When it comes to the fighter thralls you can pull out of this cave, the main two you're going to see most often are Deirdre Deathbringer and Frigga Falsehope. By all intents and purposes, everybody refers to these as identical, and they aren't, and we're going to cover that in the next video because this was one of the biggest points of confusion for me when I was learning how to actually assess a thrall once it came out of the Wheel of Pain. But again, I'll digress, and we will cover that in the next one. We also found this guy, Kreda the Crusher, I don't know, I'm butchering the name. He's got roughly double the HP. I was only able to find him once in the cave though, so he may have a slightly lower spawn rate than these other two. For me, if you guys followed that first video and you were at Tarman's birth, I think you're probably going to want to be leveling up a Tarman at this point. He's just going to be a little bit of a better fighter with a little more starting HP. And depending on the stats that you get on him when he comes out of the Wheel of Pain, you'll see here when we get that next video as to why those things kind of make a difference. When it comes to archers, there are two, Amarath the Swift, not Amaranth, I'm sorry. It's not a talentless popcorn liquor. Anyway, and then there's also Hager Hawkeye. Both archers, again, seemingly identical, but not. We'll cover that another time. For the Tier 4 dancers, there are 4. And for all intents and purposes, other than male-female, these are interchangeable. A Tier 4 dancer is really only just going to reduce your corruption faster than, say, a Tier 1, 2, or 3. So it really doesn't matter which ones you get. It's up to your preference. They're all basically the same thing. As far as our Taskmaster, we do have that driver here. And as you can see, he does help do extra concussive damage, which means he's going to make really good truncheons and save you some time knocking out thralls going forward. So if you can get him early and get him through the Wheel of Pain, he's going to get your thralls done quicker, and he's going to be giving you the opportunity to build better truncheons. So good grab on him. Alchemists, there are 2, and again, the alchemists are basically just interchangeable. They're nothing more than crafting speed. And similar is going to be for your smelters. Melicoma here. There's also Larathiel of Asura and Noam of Caria. I found this guy one time again, but they're, again, interchangeable because when you look at their stats, it is literally just crafting speed. It doesn't matter which one you have, and you don't need one per each of these different crafting stations. You just need one to cover them all. As far as tanners go, we've got Skin Grafter here. I'm not even going to try his first name. And then we have Zerono the Scented. And again, with the tanning, just crafting speed. Same goes with your 2 cooks that are available in this cave. Crumbs the Faithful. I found him in the final chamber as that Tier 4 spawn. And then this guy I found early in the cave, Gallicus the Gourmand. Pretty good thrall. The real issue when it comes to thralls here are going to be the base crafters. With armorers, you've got 3 options. You can either have a shield right, you can have a scout right, or you can have a temper right. Just know temper rights are better for durability on anything you craft. Scout rights are better for reduced weight. But in my opinion, and we are going to cover this more later, I would go with the plus armor shield right if you can find one. And there are multiple iterations of these guys. Different types, whether it's a scout right or a shield right, or it's going to be one or the other, a temper right here with burn britches. So, but just know if you want all 3, they are available in this cave. As far as blacksmiths go, I was only able to get 2 to spawn, and that's all that the wiki shows anyway. We have a tempersmith here, and then we also have the one I think you're probably looking for, which is the bladesmith, because inside here you're going to see that any weapon you're going to craft, he's going to give you double damage or plus damage. Not double damage, I apologize, but plus damage versus tempersmith that is going to give you durability. There is a 3rd one, an edgesmith, but that does not appear here in this cave. As far as carpenters go, there is one of each of the 3 different variants of the carpenter. There's a builder, there is a bowmaker, and there is a fletcher. And when you look at those guys, the builder is the durability, the bowmaker is the plus damage, which in my opinion is the one you're probably looking for. And then the fletcher is actually armor penetration. Now, I thought maybe the fletcher would be great for crafting arrows, but in my testing, the armor penetration on the arrows doesn't change regardless of which thrall you used to craft them. I found that a little bit disappointing, but hey, if you're looking for an armor penetration bow, this will give you that with the fletcher. I highly recommend the bowmaker though, because damage is damage. In the interest of truth, these guys did not come from the cave, but Zarus here, he came from right over there on that hill as one of the 2 sorcerer spawns, so it's close enough proximity that I'm going to count him as being in this area, and it only took a few runs to get him. The other one that you might run into if you were over at Tarman's Birth was this Ruth Death Eater. Again, there's 3 spawns over there. It could always spawn one of those. The thing with these guys, again, it's just crafting speed. There is really no difference between them other than preference when it comes down to it. The final bit that I want to talk about is going to be the priest that we can pull out of here. Now, I mentioned that this is now a Mitra cave. We were able to pull not only a regular Mitra priest, but a high priest. I wasn't able to pull an archpriest, but I was able to get a guardian and a confessor. And when you come into here, you're going to see that these tier 4s will attach to your upgraded temple. And this is going to give you this recipe, the true name of Mitra. And you're going to be able to summon your avatar with 500 manifestations of zeal. So this is just an excellent place. And I'm going to show you how easy it is to get this temple completely upgraded and the 500 here in just a second. But it's just a wonderful spot if you choose Mitra as your starter religion. Now, in fairness, there is also a base level dancer of Zath that can be obtained here in this cave. For whatever reason, it's not targeting, but this is just the base level priest when it comes to that. With all of these thralls being said, now let me show you what you can do in the interim to even advance when it comes up the crafting tree. When it comes to the farming loop for this particular area, especially inside of Sinner's Refuge, if you don't find the thrall that you want, you can always fight them. And these guys should be a hit or 2 at this point of your playthrough. And then you can take your religious tool and you can go ahead and just tap those guys for a lingering essence. This is going to get you all of these you're going to need for all of those manifestations of zeal. So if it's not the thrall you want, go ahead and fight it. This is going to give you experience points. And then you're also going to have plenty of opportunity for the lingering essence or whatever the religious icon might be based on whatever religion you have. The other part to this particular area is going to be the brimstone. Now, these little yellow type deals are brimstone. This is going to be 1/2 of what we need for Steelfire. And I'm going to show you a perfect way that we can get the other half and get all the Steelfire we're ever going to need to craft all the steel we're ever going to need. After going through Sinner's Refuge and either getting the thralls out that I want or collecting my religious things for zeal, I come over to this little area, which is just right over on top of where our base is built. And these guys are not going to find a lot of tier 4s in this particular area. But what they are really good for is coming over here to your sacrificial stones. And here you can start to collect both sacrificial blood in a flask, and you can also craft soul essence. As you can see, these are just going to add up over time. Again, I take those 3 and I will knock them out and drag them over here for sacrifice. It's pretty good. And then I will go over and I will run this particular camp, and it's basically the same thing. This is going to have the 2 sorcerer spawns that we mentioned, as well as lots of different thralls. Again, good for religious stuff as we get going forward. So just know that there is plenty of things to do, and I kind of do that in the rotation. Now, the other thing that I do in rotation is going to be the Steelfire portion of what we've been talking about here. And this is going to rely on us getting a ton of hide. And there's a couple of ways to go about getting hide in this location, because these hyenas drop all kinds of good stuff for you when it comes down to it. Again, if you're very early on, these are a little bit of a tougher fight, but not too bad. And as you can see, we're getting hyena pelt here. We're going to show you what to do with that in just a second. But just know there's 2 more adults up there. There is 2 more adults right over here. There's also an adult hyena there. There's 2 more down here. There's also plenty of these animals that you can get hide from. There's a couple other hyenas just down the way over here. Right in this location here. And then there's more along the coastline. And it's such a good spot. You can end up, as you level up and you get into star metal type tools, you can get thousands of these hyena pelts. And I'm going to show you what to do with those in just a second. Another thing we're setting up in this location is going to be a fishing hut. Now, this is pretty much overkill for what you're going to need here. But just know that you can come down here and you're going to get all the fish you're going to need to either for food or for the bigger issue, which is going to be oil. And to get that, you just put that into a press, and that's pretty much all you have to do. Just put them right into one of these, and you're going to get all the oil you're going to need going forward for different recipes and things like that. Now, the one thing that I didn't mention on this run as you kind of loop around this area is going to be the coal. Coal is probably the second best source of fuel in the game, next to dry wood. And we are going to be making dry wood because there's lots of trees and stuff around. And I'll show you that here in a second because we're going to need that to get into the tier 3 materials. But just know there's quite a bit of coal here in the area to collect. And you can use that in your forges and or your cooking different areas, whether it's a stove or just the cooking pit. That works pretty good in either one of those for a longer burn time. As far as what to do with all the hyena pelt, well, that's where a tanner's table comes in handy for 2 reasons. One, we can put the hyena pelt directly in here and we can take it right down to hide using this recipe right here. It's 2 to 1 or 1 to 2. You get 1 hide per 2 hyena pelts. But what I found is hyena pelt drops really good, especially as you get your tools leveled up. If you have an armorer thrall, and for whatever reason the tanner's table, the armorers will attach to this, you're also going to get this recipe, which is thick hide stitch. For 4 hide and a twine, you can make a thick hide, which you can then turn into thick leather. What are we going to do with all these things? Well, we're going to take them over here to the tannery, and we're going to start to get our thick leather crafting as well as our regular leather. These are going to be major components for our hardened leather down the road. And we're also going to be taking this tar, because the tar is the second part of what we need in the fire bowl in order to make Steelfire. So we can basically make endless Steelfire in this location. How do you use that Steelfire? Well, all the iron you've been collecting, you're going to then take over here and put into a different furnace. With the iron and the Steelfire, you can start this, and voila, we are now making steel bars. We have moved into that next level. As soon as your knowledge points are unlocked, you can now get into your steel tools. You can get into some higher end armor and weapon recipes. It's just going to be a really good thing for you. But the benefits of this location don't just stop there. Moving just up the hill from our base place location is going to be this area as we kind of come up here. Now there's going to be more coal in this area, but what we're mostly here for are going to be the spiders and also the gossamer. And let me show you that real quick. These spiders, when hit with a pickaxe, are going to drop ichor, and ichor is going to be really, really big going forward. And again, this is a tougher fight until you get some better gear. So just know that these guys will attack you in packs, and it can be a little bit difficult. But when you take them and you hit them with the pickaxe, you're going to get quite a bit of ichor. And again, I will show you what to do with that. Now, if you take an actual sickle and you hit this these egg-like looking things with that sickle, you're going to get gossamer. And as you level up and unlock the different recipes, I believe it's Master Armorer, you're going to be able to take this gossamer and turn it directly into silk, which can then be turned into layered silk. Another benefit of this location is going to be that there is a boss up on this area, and this is probably going to be your first foray into boss fights. This is a 3-skull spider who's going to drop quite a bit of ichor and also potentially some weapons. But at the end of the day, you're going to be looking for the skeleton keys because those are going to start coming in handy as we move forward. Just know you want to be collecting these. This is a good place to level up your thralls and all of those sorts of things as well. So good fights to get into. You should be about ready to be able to handle these guys, even though they got a ton of HP, even in your iron state going into your steel state. Now, the only real problem with this area is iron, but there's a pretty reliable spot not too far away. To continue on with our iron journey, we're actually going to be coming over here to the F5 grid block right over by the Tower of Bats. And as you can see here, there is just a ton of ironstone in this general area, more than you're going to be able to carry back. So just come over here light, hit what you can. You can bring a thrall, or you can bring a horse or a camel or something like that to kind of carry this stuff back for you. It's definitely more than you're going to be able to carry, because at this point you're probably not at level 60 and you're not going to be running an encumbrance build. But if you are at level 60 at this point, this is a fantastic place to keep your ironstone going. I cannot stress this enough, guys. Keep iron going when it comes to this game, because it's going to be needed throughout the entire game. You're going to use iron to make steel. You're going to use steel to make hardened steel, and you're getting diminishing returns each time with that. Now, as far as another part of the game, this is the summoning place. You can come over here and start farming cannibal brutes and also kind of test your strength and get some XP. You're also going to be able to collect some pretty good stuff. And then right down this way through this little archway, you're going to find your way back down to Sinner's Refuge. And what I have done here is just kind of created a little bit of a staircase. It takes me right back down so I don't have to jump or climb or anything like that. And then you can see our base is just right back over there, and Center's Refuge is right here. So it's just one big giant loop, and it's just so useful. I do want to also mention too that this lagoon right here that is actually at G4 is going to house a giant alligator. This is another good place to come down as you're coming down the coastline farming hyena. And this is a great place to get not only weapons that can spawn from this guy, but also skeleton keys. You're going to need those going forward to unlock these crates that we're going to need to get legendary weapons out of certain places. And again, that's another topic for another day. Now, the last few things that I do want to touch on when it comes to this is going to be what to do with that ichor that we got from up there at the spiders. You're going to want to put that in a fireball cauldron with silver and gold dust. That's going to make alchemy base. And at this point in your playthrough, the alchemy base is probably not that big of a thing for you, but it is never too early to start making this stuff and collecting it, because it's going to come in big handy when we get into some of the bigger, not only armor, but potion recipes down the road for heals. It's just a wonderful thing. As far as advancing your building materials, a dryer is going to come in handy, because when you put wood in there, you're going to make dry wood, which is actually the best source of fuel in the game, believe it or not, and also resin. Now, if you want to make the tier 2 material insulated wood, you'll have to put dry wood and resin in a carpenter's bench, and you can make it that way. But this is where the tier 3 materials are going to really get started here, because if you put regular old wood in a carpenter's bench, you can make shaped wood. If you come over here and you take some of that resin with some fiber, you're going to be able to make stone consolidant. And then you add that stone consolidant to where you've been cooking down your rocks into bricks, and you can make hardened bricks, a tier 3 material. Another thing you can do is with the steel that you've been crafting, you can put this into a blacksmith's bench and you can make steel reinforcements. That's going to be your third and final tier 3 material. So you can now start mass producing those things that if you've bought some of the different build packs, you can now start mass producing all of those ingredients to where you can build big and have plenty of space going forward for whatever your main base or whatever build you have in your heart. You can make that with no problems at all. The final thing I do want to mention here is that another great area here is going to be at H3. This is Hanuman's Grotto. And the reason for this is it not only is going to have all the crystal you need to melt into glass and then put back into the bench where you make flasks, so you have plenty for your sacrificial blood in a flask and or your soul essence, but it's also the main boss at the end of this one can also drop Silent Legion gear, which it's going to be pretty torn up for the most part, but you can then put that on a thrall to give them some extra armor for absolutely free until you go up and get the recipe from the dungeon where you can craft your own Silent Legion. This area is so massively useful. I probably still miss stuff, even though I thought I covered it all. Here at Steelfire Friend Camp, we focus on doing so many things that you're never going to be bored, and it's going to do nothing but advance you further in the game. There's no reason why you can't be level 60 coming out of this base and then heading off at your full possible potential, going out into the world, into dungeons and things that are still going to be challenging, but that's where you start to get some of the really good recipes, and you can start to craft the even better gear, and you're going to start finding legendary weapons. But I feel like having a firm base to fall back on is always a great place to go. And hey, tier 3 materials, when it comes to building, having a good spot to mass produce those is just chef's kiss, in my opinion, because this is going to let you build whatever you want going forward in the game. I do apologize here. I don't usually make 25-minute videos, but if you stayed till the end, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and like the video, because in the next one, we're going to be talking about the struggles with thralls and even the companions when it comes down to Conan Exiles. And I'm going to try to work through some of the RNG and show you the differences in the thralls and how to identify a good one from a bad one when they come out of the Wheel of Pain. Stay tuned for that, because I think it's going to be a really good, useful video, even for some experienced players, maybe some things that you might want to start using in your playthroughs. But until next time, guys, thank you so much for watching, and bear with me till the end, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye.